So get back to like. So what is this? What is the reason that these people are? It can't be that they're all bad and sniveling little pricks.
No.
They're spreading Russian horror about your brother. What? Who did that?
So there's something similar about that. The muscle with Trump as to my brother. First of all, there's the association between my brother and Trump.
Okay. Ну это понятно. No, but these are pro-Trump people I'm talking about. These are pro-Trump people. These are not leftists. I'm talking about frum people.
Because they are, and actually, this is funny that we brought up Rabbi Bar Chaya, because he's connected to this idea.
Yeah.
So his idea was that, look, we are living halachically we're living on the echo of the poskim from hundreds and thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And so they made halachic rulings which reflect their time.
Huh.
But we are still living under those rulings which reflect a different time.
Ain't got nothing to do with us. Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying to move away from Torah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to this, but the Rabbanim today don't have the balls to be Rabbanim. Mm-hmm. They're not acting like it. They don't. They have the title, but they don't take on responsibility. They don't put their money where their mouth is.
Mm-hmm.
So he is, and that's why he's a big proponent of switching over to the Jerusalem Talmud rather than. So that aspect of stuff that he's saying makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to, in a sense, growing yourself, right, to becoming a person who is responsible for your own welfare, physically and spiritually, the people they're still connected by the umbilical cord to their rabbi, who himself is a baby.
Yeah.
Who is not a rabbi.
Okay.
And they're scared to disconnect from that because that's their security blanket. That means they don't have to make their own decision.
Yeah.
That means they don't have to have a real conversation with God. Yeah. That is personal, not supervised, not chaperoned by their rabbi.
That's why it's so crazy to me when I met people during this whole process who told me, my rabbi told me to take the vaccine. Yam Gabaru. I don't care how much Das Torah or even Ruach HaKodesh a rabbi has. Didal Bayob.
There's no, you can't say.
You understand what I mean?
Ruach HaKodesh is not, they don't have Ruach HaKodesh.
No, I know they don't. No, you're getting medical advice from a rabbi.
You know where it comes from? The Chazon Ish, he was able to give medical advice to somebody which saved somebody's life in an operation. He told the doctor how to, right? So apparently, now because the Chazon Ish did that, that means that, everybody in the black hat with a beard is able to do that, and we know it's possible. Proof of concept.
Yeah, this one Rav, he's like a rabbi who I actually like. I'm close with him. He's like, but all the rabbis said to take it. I'm like, first of all, not all the rabbis. He's like, no. He's like, all the doctors said to take it. I'm like, not all the doctors, for sure not. All the rabbis said. He's like, all the big rabbis said to take it. I'm like, no. There's a bunch of big rabbis in Mea Sharim who you may not hold by that said not to take it. He's like, tell me the names. I'm like, I can give you a whole list. Not off the top of my head. I ran into him.
Would you mind sending me that list, by the way?
Yes. There's a whole website and a whole list of these dudes. They signed the thing not to take it. But nobody cares. It's like, but it doesn't really matter because they're fucking rabbis giving medical advice. They're not doctors!
I get your kasha here.
You understand what I like? Fuck!
I see the dilemma. Yeah.
Anyway, but
I know, it's like you sound like Carlos Mencia. Like,
I know, Beaners. No, it's like whatever, Beaners giving medical advice. So yeah, I like how you're probably more than me reference stand-up comedians more than I do, and I reference them a lot, but usually the same like three guys, not like these dudes who are like I know them, but you have to know them.
It's hard for me to admit how familiar I am with stand-up comedy.
You shouldn't, dude. Stand-up comedy. These people, you understand that these people are Torah. They're walking Torah. They say the shit that we don't want to say, and they are saying emes all the time. That's why these assholes who are trying to kill comedy, they're actually Amalek. They're trying to kill emes.
That's why I want to kick Bill Burr in the fucking nuts. Can I?
You want to take Bill Burr in what?
I want to kick Bill Burr in the nuts. You know why?
Why?
Because he is always right on the cusp of a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And then he paddles back. You know, he reels it back and
he goes, because he doesn't want to be canceled. He's like, you know, he's being, what's it called?
Right.
Anyway, so you're explaining, like, these people, they're speaking Lashon Hara about your brother, like,
because he's challenging them to break free from their childhood, from their spiritual and their physical childhood. He's challenging them to have a confrontation with reality, with the fact that their rabbis are not the tzaddikim from the stories that we heard. They're not the Baal Shem Tov. That they're no one. That they don't deserve the title that they have because they're not. They can answer some questions here and there about some halachas that they learned, but do they have a true connection like Rabbi Moshe Feinstein? Right? Actually, you know who told me a story about? Not me. It was a video on YouTube about Moshe Feinstein. It was Manis Friedman.
Oh, about the Rebbe's kasher with him and stuff like that?
No, not at all. No. The actual discussion was about marijuana and its halachic, implications, right? So there's a discussion there because Rav Moshe banned it, right? Rav Moshe Feinstein that it's not legal, it's not allowed. And then obviously there's some halachic authorities, I guess, later that are not entirely. They've broken from that, or they passed their own rulings. I don't know. But he said that I'm going to remain with the opinion of Rav Moshe on that. That's what Manis Friedman said. Yeah. The reason is because I know that he was a real posek. And what is a real posek? A posek is not someone who has an encyclopedic knowledge and can scan the entire spectrum of halachic discourse. I
call it terabytes of information, like Rabbi Schachter of YU. He's got like a terabyte hard drive in his head.
Right, he has a hard drive in his head. Just because he can automatically access it at any moment. That's not what makes a posek. A posek has that information, plus has the connection, has the Ruach HaKodesh, has the dominion, the mandate from God to do that. Rav Moshe had the mandate from God. So whatever he says is from Shemayim. That's why Manis Friedman. So even if I don't necessarily understand it, and even if information came to light later that there's some of the things that he was concerned about is not necessarily the issue, but there's an aspect to it which you cannot brush off his connection. So there's also that. Now, I'm not saying that Manis Friedman is 100% right, but it's a very rare attitude, right? Where a person truly understands that. First of all, you have the sense. You can. Something just popped into my head. I had to tell you. I don't know if do you ever watch black and white, like those old samurai movies, like Kurosawa and
I've seen part. I don't go out of my way to watch them, but I know what you're talking about.
Right, so there's one movie with Mifune, the most famous of all Japanese actors.
Okay.
And apparently named, after Caleb's father, Yefune.
Interesting. Caleb and Yefune, yeah. I went to daven at the what's it place? I davened there at their kevers.
Amazing.
In Kiful Haris, it's like an Arab town.
I've never been to the kever of any of the shvatim.
You gotta go. They have days where they do. It's like they take a bus and then the army comes in. It's like inside an Arab town, like a small Arab town outside of Ariel, and the army comes in, and then like the Arabs go into their little dirki, into their houses, and then the Jews walk through the town. It's very funny.
So anyway. So basically, there's this movie where he's like this rogue kind of like homeless samurai, right? and he doesn't have. He's not connected to a lord.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a Ronin, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he's like sleeping in some house, and then and he's passing through a town where there's some kind of internal scuffle between two lords, or between the lord and the sheriff of the town, and then people are taking sides, and they're trying to figure out who's the villain.
Yeah.
And so all these young samurai, right, like kids basically, they all gather in the house where this Mifune is like squatting.
Yeah.
They're hiding from the new power, from the new police or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And they're deciding what to do, how to act. Should they attack now? Should they attack later? This and that. And he's like sleeping, but he's also hearing everything they're saying with one ear. Yeah. So he becomes their de facto leader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He just takes them on.
Sure.
He takes them under his wing, and he guides them, shepherds them through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then leaves. And but in the course of the movie, they're deciding to take on. They're like, who are they going to take on? That guard or that guard, and then that guy. And then he slaps them in the head. He goes, "You fools! Don't you see that man is a tiger?" Right? Yeah. Like they couldn't tell the difference between just a regular guard and a true master. Like they cannot spot it. They don't have that. They don't have the sense when you can them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we don't have that anymore. We don't have the nucha. Who is a leader? Who is a true rav? Who is a true posik? And who is not? To us, anybody who can read a little bit of the Ari, went to. It's become an academic thing rather than a spiritual thing.
Смотри, even if it is a spiritual thing, again, it's just like, I don't know, man. It's funny, and I was saying this to my friend, at the end of the day, as much as I, try to see the world in more of a ruchnius way, and I look at, my friend makes fun of me that I look for hashgacha pratis in every little tiny thing, and he jokes around with me. He's like, "No, the krasnaya nitочка," he jokes around. He's like, "Dude, you see hashgacha pratis in the stupidest situations, right?" As much as I do that, at the end of the you're supposed to, but at the end of the day, dude, when it comes to medical, I would prefer to use my seichel, and I would prefer to just go with statistics and logic. And I'm very when it comes to medical, I'm very, very, apart from the davening for refuah and all these kind of things and miracles, as far as the hishtadlus part, I'm very, very just grounded in that respect. And I will never go to a Rav to ask him, if there's some sort of indecision about, should I take this drug, should I do this treatment? I won't go to a Rav to get advice. I won't go to a Mikubal even to get advice to take whether or not to take, like Rabbi Pinto. I wouldn't go to Rabbi Pinto either way, and not knowing what I know now that he said to take it, for sure I wouldn't go to him. But in general, I wouldn't go to Mikubal who's going to tell me, take the vaccine. If I have my own brain, Yeshot visual, I do my own cost-benefit analysis, and my cost-benefit analysis is determined based on my mathematical brain, что это невыгодно мне брать эту хуйню. Just math.
Right. You don't need to go to the Rav every time you need to take a piss.
Да, у меня есть мозги. I'm a son of mathematics. My parents are applied math people. I'm constantly doing calculations in my head. I look at data. I look at things. For me, one death from this thing is enough. I don't want to be the second death, even if there was one other death. Я не хочу. And I know, and knowing that there's treatments for COVID itself, okay, I'd rather, Kadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. You know what I'm saying? So that's it.
Look, they are the Jewish people are true sheep.
I know.
True sheep.
I know.
The truest of all the sheep in the world.
No.
And so that's really the nature of the Jewish people.
No.
And the shepherds are also sheep, and and those shepherds are being led around by the wolves.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's what it is. So part of it is even if some people have some level of awareness of that, if they're noticing that, they always go to this. They're like, God wouldn't do it to us, would he? He wouldn't let it happen. Right. It's not debuting. Again, it always goes back to God.
No.
This is what God has created.
Yeah.
This is a situation that He has formed.
Yeah.
Okay? And there's obviously we're not going to figure this out, right?
Yeah.
As to why, what's really happening, why is it? But this is a setup.
Seriously.
To what end? I don't know. Okay? I don't know why it has to be like this. Okay? But the people it's very difficult to blame them. Okay? For all their foibles and their weaknesses, right? It's very difficult to blame them. Because they were not raised to be, the warrior spirits.
Mm-hmm. Forget about warrior, just independent thinkers, It's just. You want to know the irony is that some of them don't, when it suits them, they don't consult their Rav. They just do. When it comes to business, они просто делают. Their Rav wouldn't tell them to do what some of these people do in business. Their Rav wouldn't advise them to do that. It's very interesting.
There's a lot of contradictory behavior, but I don't know how exactly frame this. But for instance, why is it that they are so apt to listening to the doctors, right?
Yeah.
Because on some level they sense their unsophistication.
Yeah.
Right?
Their own unsophistication.
Their own unsophistication.
Yeah.
And they see themselves as inferior.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I tell you something to what you're saying? There was a very sweet kid, one of my roommates in Jerusalem. He's an older guy, and one of his sons came to visit him. Very sweet kid who was raised. His father's a Baal Tshuva. Hello?
Yeah.
And he was raised Haredi, and the kid goes, "Yeah, I took the stuff because he's like, because there's people who understand." He's like, "There are much smarter people than me who understand this more than me." More than us. He was like, he made the conversation into a collective. I'm like, and I'm standing there, sweet kid, but I'm just thinking to myself, bro, speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. Who are smart, they're a PhD. It's like his father's, there's a professor that his father knows who's a PhD, and he's much smarter than us. And he said, and I'm like, speak for yourself, bro. I didn't tell him that. He was a very nice kid, but I was just like, I'm like, do you know what's in this stuff? He's like, I don't know. He's like, yeah. I'm like, which one did you take? Because he was in the States. I'm like, do you know? Did you take Pfizer or Moderna? He's like, I don't even know. I went to CVS with my girlfriend. I'm like, and I'm standing there. I'm like looking at him, like, bro, like, что с тобой? Что, блядь, с тобой?
Right. So that's what it is. So they understand, or they think they understand that they are really inferior to the PhDs or the MDs, right?
Yeah.
And so are their rabbis.
Yeah.
And so the rabbis, in order to gain the confidence of their community, right? They do what they know their community wants them to do, which is to go and take the advice of those who look at them like monkeys.
No.
Okay, so that's what it is. They have submitted to the chachma of the goyim.
Supposed chachma, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's it. They don't have any true faith in their rabbis, but they're still used to living
that
as
mechanics,
an organism with the rabbi as the head.
Yeah, that mechanics, that machination, MO.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they operate as a community, as a herd.
Yes, no. You want to know something?
It's a yeah.
No, it's something crazy. Like I think I told you this. I was standing in Kikar Tzion in the center of town, and I was talking. These women, they were like protesting, whatever. They had their placards, anti-vax, whatever. And then this Haredi kid, he must be like 19, 20 years old, comes up, and he speaks like relatively decent English, but he's Israeli, He's
you said the story.
I told you the story.
They hate
yeah,
me,
he's like, the government hates me, but I listen to the... I'm like, я просто, у меня рот открылся, я не знаю, что сказать ему в ответ. Знаешь, he won the argument by de facto of me being охуевший.
Right, you were so taken aback.
Yeah,
to the level of,
I didn't know what to say. I'm like, okay, the conversation's over because ты просто меня, you know, it's like Mike Tyson punched me in the face, and I'm just like you know, I'm like when I heard that, I'm just like, it's like, to me that's like the you know, a siman of like what's going on in general, and I'm just like, what's gonna be, you know, with our nation.
So,
you know?
right. So basically, another aspect to this, and you know, I'm going to have to bring this because I always do in our conversations.
Yeah.
I heard this from Bar Tzadok.